How is everybody doing? Valentine's Day. More importantly, are aliens invading the world? I mean, it's kind of hard to know, isn't it? You got all these crazy stories about no, definitely not UFOs. They are definitely not unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs. Got that now, right? What happened to good old UFOs? I don't know. Let's start off with a little Marjorie Taylor Greene, because why not? And because I think it's kind of funny. She does this crazy thing with the balloon. Gonna get my volume to go for you guys. Here we go. Let's watch this. This is just funny.
Just an innocent white balloon, everybody.
Just an innocent white balloon. Just a balloon. Just a little balloon, just doing its balloon thing. I'm gonna close that out. What we know about the objects shot down by the U.S. military. What do we know? What do we know? Well, let's just get into the article. I know I ran a little bit late here. We're still working on some of our chat stuff and getting volume going. There we go. Hello, it's me. Hello. An unprecedented spate of mysterious flying objects over North America, including a Chinese spy balloon shot down on February 4th after floating over much of the United States, has transfixed Americans and Canadians. It's the whole world, right? Prompted political outrage and raised a host of national security questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read this article first, and then we've got a bunch of other articles here, and I won't read them all, but they're all on the same topic. And then why the government suddenly started detecting mysterious aerial objects. All right, that's a good one. We've got the AP, aliens, lack of U.S. info on shoot downs breeds wild ideas. That's a lot of what we're hearing about, right? To the point where the White House is like, they're not aliens. No aliens. We don't know what they are. We don't know what they came from. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know how they fly, but they're not aliens. I mean, that's literally what we're being told, right? We've got White House saying leading theory is objects shot down were benign balloons. That's why I did the Marjorie Taylor Greene, because her whole thing is, it's just a little balloon. And then we've got top general not ruling out aliens. This is a United States general, and he's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to defer you to somebody else in the military that's got a better handle on this, but not saying it's not, those three objects that we shot out of the sky, not saying those aren't aliens. They could be aliens. And now we're going to finish up with U.S. recovers the electronic sensors in search of debris from downed Chinese balloon. And then in that article, Japan starts to jump in with, hey, they've been flying balloons over our country as well. So what is going on? What do you guys think is going on? Was the first one a Chinese balloon that was obviously security that flew for 3 days over the United States and we just kind of watched it? Yeah, there's a balloon. Yeah, it's flying. Day 2 of the balloon flying. Oh, yeah, day 3 of the balloon. Okay, yeah. Well, it's almost off of our territory here. It's almost out of our airspace. Let's shoot it down. And then these other 3 that we shot down, I mean, we're not being told anything about those, are we? So what's going on? Yeah, let's get into it. Here is what we know and do not know about the objects. What are the objects? First of the 4 objects were a 200-foot tall, 60-meter high aerial intruder that set off the frenzy when it was spotted 2 weeks ago. It's been identified by U.S. officials as a balloon that China was using to spy on the United States. There's so many things there. I mean, you just let the balloon fly. Okay, yeah, we're watching it. Yeah. And then why did we wait so long? That's what Mike Pompeo was basically stating. He's like, why did we wait so long? That's dereliction of duty. If somebody flies something over your country, you blast it out of the sky, right? I mean, that's kind of the way I grew up. If there's like an incoming threat, you blow it up. You ask questions after you blow it up, because where else is this kind of threat coming from? And then we were also told, well, it's because these balloons fly so slowly that they got under our radar. We've had to reconfigure our ancient 1980s radar technology. That's been another excuse. It's like, really? We just spent how many billions over to Ukraine and we don't have we don't have technology to detect, balloons flying at 0.4 miles an hour or however fast they fly. Not very fast. Beijing denies the balloon was for surveillance and says it was a civilian research craft. Civilian research craft. That's just such nonsense. It's just so not believable. Really? Okay. And or it was a weather balloon and it flew off course, right? The other three remain officially unidentified. So that was the Friday, Saturday, Sunday debacle we had. It's like, all right, we're just shooting stuff out of the sky. We have no idea what it is, but it's not aliens. Don't you believe that it's aliens? Do you ever think one morning you're going to wake up and it's going to be like one of those scenes from Red Dawn? You remember that movie with Charlie Sheen? And it had a bunch. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey and a handful of people that are now, pretty darn famous. I want to say Rutger Hauer, but that's not right. Powers Booth, he played an awesome part in that. But there's one scene where the kids are sitting in class and they're looking out the window. They're like, hey, there's some parachutes coming down. And it was the Russian invasion, right? Do you ever think you're going to wake up one day and that's what's going to happen with a bunch of aliens coming down? I sometimes do. I mean, it's one of those weird thoughts you have in your head that you've watched too many movies and you just think, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But do you think if aliens did come down to Earth that they'd be really civil and, trying to work out some kind of plan that, creates peace? No, I don't think they're coming here with our good intentions in mind. They'd be coming here to basically do something wild with the planet, right? And what makes me think that there's, aliens out there? Well, we've got maybe 2 trillion, is it galaxies now? I think it is. I mean, or I don't know, billions and trillions, planets, galaxies, whatever you want to call them. There's so much out there in space that I think there's no way that we can't have other life out there. That's my thought. So the other 3 remain officially identified. That was the Friday, Saturday, Sunday shootings. So we went from, no, let's just let it sit up there for a handful of days and we'll get to it when we get to it. Then we'll bring it down, when it's over water and we can't really hurt civilians. Since when is that really a big consideration? So they include an object about the size of a small car shot down over sea ice near Dead Horse, Alaska on Friday. Another similar in shape, but smaller than the Chinese spy balloon brought down over Canada's Yukon on Saturday, and an octagonal object shot down over Lake Huron on Sunday. Where did they come from? U.S. officials have not yet announced any point of origin for the devices. On Sunday, the United States Air Force general overseeing North American airspace said he would not rule out aliens or any other explanation, although another U.S. official said later there was no evidence that extraterrestrials were involved. So many people have hit up the White House that they had basically a press conference and they basically just came out and said, not aliens. It's not aliens. Don't let your minds run crazy. But if they don't know what it is, if they don't know, there's a chance that these are UFOs, that these are, from outer space. I watched War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise the other day. And that's kind of a scary movie. That's a wild movie. I know, growing up, hearing about the original War of the Worlds with Orson Welles, that radio deal where everybody thought, wow, this is real. This is happening. We are being invaded by aliens. And so I wasn't old enough. When was that? Was that in the 50s? I think that was in the 50s. Maybe some of you experienced that. I mean, am I totally off on time period here? I just remember, watching like a video of that whole thing play out, and people got really freaked out because they didn't have all of this technology and they didn't have all of this craziness where we can kind of fact check things. I've got six, 7 articles up here that show different, points of opinion of what's going on and do a little bit of fact checking, with the exception of we don't really know what these objects that we blasted out of the sky were. And if you look at a map of where these three things were basically blasted, where they probably landed, in the water in the middle of winter, you got some choppy sea, and then you got Alaska, you're in some real dense, forested area. They may have a tough time finding these things, is the official word they're saying. If you look at a map, you're like, okay, yeah, I could see that. Are they just making excuses? Don't know. On Sunday, the United States Air Force general overseeing North American airspace said he would not rule this out. So we've got that. So you got half the folks saying, it could be anything. We don't know. Don't rule it out. Or it's aliens. Let's just go with that. It's just alien. It's alien spacecraft. United States military adjusted its radar to find slower flying objects at different altitudes after the first balloon was spotted. Really? I am no, technology expert. My radar technology is limited at best. It's not even limited. I don't have any. But are we really, cranking down our sensitivity on the radars so that they pick stuff up that you can see with the naked eye? Is that really what we're doing? Because that seems kind of backwards. But again, I don't know. And the government announced that several Chinese spy balloons had visited the United States undetected in recent years. Now, there's a big thing with the Biden administration saying, hey, this happened, 3 times during the Trump administration? And then Trump administration pushing back, saying, no, that didn't happen. We didn't know about it. It was undetected at the time. Something like that. So this has really kicked off just a whole bunch of he said, they said, liar, liar, pants on fire with China, Japan kicking in. Then we're trying to pick up all the pieces of this Chinese balloon that we knocked down that China claimed was a weather balloon, but it had all this technology on it. I mean, what are we supposed to believe? You just got to believe what you believe, right? U.S. officials said, here we go, U.S. officials, all right, we're going to trust this then, right? I am reading this from Newsmax, if that makes you feel any better. I feel bad for Newsmax. Newsmax got hosed with DirecTV, with the cable thing. They got drilled. That wasn't fair at all. But, nothing's really fair in today's day and age with media, right? U.S. officials said U.S. North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, has been adjusting the filters and algorithms it uses to examine radar data, making them sensitive enough to detect the smaller objects whose ability to stay aloft and move with the wind is confounding U.S. officials. When I read that, I just want to say in my head, that's nonsense. You guys can figure this out. If you can get a man to the moon, if that happened, I'm not really going to go there, but so many people do that you got to. If you have the technology to do that, can't you figure out how to get your radar to recognize something that's just, there it is. And we're not talking these things flying that high. The Chinese balloon was at 60,000 feet, right? About twice what a commercial jet flies. I think when I go to Maui, I'm flying at 32,000 feet, between 32 and 35,000 feet. So, and a little bit higher than that was where the other 3 objects that we shot down were. There were I think there were somewhere around 40,000 feet in elevation. So, we're not flying just crazy, because I think space starts at 5 miles, at whatever that is out there. On February 4th, an F-22 fighter jet shot down the first balloon over the Atlantic Ocean off South Carolina. F-22s also shot down the objects over Alaska on Friday and Canada on Saturday. So I think that was the first thing that we'd shot down with an F-22. The device over Lake Huron was blown out of the sky on Sunday by an F-16. So yeah, the F-22s, they got their 2 missions in and yep, successful, but we don't know what it was. They shot something down. We do not know. All 4 were hit with Sidewinder missiles, which each cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why that is relevant to put in this, I don't know. When it's a matter of national security, It's kind of like, all right, as taxpayers, we all chip into the defense fund. So military considered using guns, but this was deemed too difficult given the small targets. Guns would also be more dangerous for the pilot since debris can more easily hit an aircraft firing at close range than one launching a missile from a distance. Don't we have all kinds of training exercises that we do for this? I mean, isn't this just, we go out and just do this? I don't know. Whenever I read this stuff, I'm kind of like, we had to think about it a little bit. We had to consider what we were doing. And here's our options. What threat do the objects pose? Yeah, that's what I want to know. I would like to know that. Wouldn't you? You got stuff flying over the United States airspace willy-nilly. I'd like to know what threat it is. Will we ever find out? I don't know. I kind of think an invasion is the only way we're going to find out. Those are aliens. They're here. The objects, especially those spotted near military installations, have raised fears of surveillance by U.S. adversaries and have raised tensions between the United States and China, which both accuse the other violating sovereign airspace. Some also flew at altitudes where they could pose a danger to civilian aircraft. The incidents have prompted repeated closures of airspace to commercial craft to avoid possible collisions between fighter jets and civilian aircraft. Imagine, your flight's been canceled today. How come? I got a possible UFO out there, and we're going to have to shoot it down. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll get the next flight. How would that go? Not well. China has accused Washington of sending high-altitude balloons over its airspace without permission more than 10 times since the beginning of 2022. Now that I probably believe. I think we do this all day long. Let's just fly this out here and see what happens. We'll just do this and see what happens. I think that happens all day long, to the point where this whole detecting the balloons via, radar technology, I think we see this all day long. U.S. officials denied the accusation. Of course they did. What about other countries? The United States accuses China of conducting a high-altitude surveillance balloon program for intelligence collection that has violated the airspace of more than 40 countries across 5 continents. All right, we know this goes on, right? I mean, if you think that everybody plays by the rules all the time and nobody spies on anybody, good luck with that, right? Washington said another Chinese balloon had been spotted over Latin America. Close U.S. ally Britain said it would review its security in the wake of the U.S.-China balloon incident. So it's really ruffled some feathers because don't know what it is, shot a handful of them down. China's upset that we blew their, weather balloon, and that the whole thing is it's not funny, but it's almost comical in how this has been handled. It's just like, what are we doing? What is going on? Sean must have been a fun guy in college to hang around. Actually, I worked a lot. I wasn't that much fun. I was working, I was rowing crew, I was trying to carry a full load, and that just didn't happen. All right, exclusive. Mike Pompeo, Biden has caused global shame with spy balloon response. You guys will like this one, because this one kind of cuts right to what I think most conservative people think. And I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of family. I'm going to cut the volume on that because I think I hate it when these videos pop up and they start automatically playing. I got to cut those off because they're talking nonsense. So a lot of folks wanted to go right to the concept of, we let that first Chinese balloon, it was a spy balloon, we let it just get all of its data, and it uploaded its data to wherever and whomever and whatever it was, and then at the last minute we blasted it out of the sky, but then we retrieved the stuff. A lot of people want to say, hey, that was just indecision, you wasted a lot of time. And that's basically what this article says. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo exoriated got real upset with President Biden for his handling of the spy balloon issue on Monday, telling The Hill in an exclusive interview that the current administration made an enormous mistake that caused global shame. I kind of felt a little bit of global shame. I was like, just blast the effing thing out of the sky. Worry about the other stuff later. And that was my thought is, well, isn't this what we do? Oh, apparently we don't. We just let it, fly along and all right, yeah, now it's over Montana. All right, yeah, it's still going. It's still going. Pompeo also strongly denied that he or any member of former President Trump's administration, to the best of his knowledge, was aware of spy balloons entering U.S. airspace during their time in power. All right, that has been kind of the story from the Trump administration, hasn't it? They've just come right out and stated, no, we didn't have any. That's nonsense. The harshest criticism was reserved for the Biden administration's actions in relation to the first of 4 objects that have been shot down since February 4th. That device is the only one so far confirmed as a Chinese spy balloon. A U.S. jet took down the balloon, estimated the size of about 3 buses, off the coast of South Carolina after it traversed the United States for several days. The delay infuriated Pompeo. I don't know what it collected. I don't know what signals intelligence it may have had. I don't know what imagery it may have been able to garner. He said in an on-camera interview at The Hill promoting his memoir, Never Give an Inch. So he's got an agenda here, right? But this is what the majority of most folks that, I interact with was, what took us so long? What was the delay? You've obviously got something that's not a weather balloon. And so we're just going to let it just, fly around and keep flying. It baffles me, but I'm sure there's some reasonable explanation we will be given that'll maybe make sense. I know the initial one was, wow, we didn't want it to fall on, civilians. Okay. Yeah. Collateral damage. All right. We've never really cared about that before. So I think it was one of those indecision things. Just didn't have the decision, didn't have the ability to make that decision. And I don't know on all this stuff. And we don't know collectively because we literally don't know, what these other 3 are at all. We've got basically no clue. The whole world saw a slow-moving balloon transiting from Montana, Kansas, South Carolina, and the United States of America did nothing, he added. This lack of action delivered an enormous geopolitical advantage for China. I can't imagine that the risk of some falling debris over a place like Montana exceeded the risk of global shame. Yeah, that to me makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've got to have the ability to blast something out of the sky and kind of know roughly where it's going to fall, right? With, a little bit of variance. I mean, we've got trajectory and, airflow and wind flow and all this stuff. I mean, you got to have scientists that have that worked out, right? I mean, you can't tell me it's just a one shot and, it might just go anywhere. And there's got to be a little bit of, okay, we're comfortable shooting this down here because, we've got this 2,000 acre ranch and it looks like it's going to go right in the middle. And maybe we blast it when we get to XYZ point and do that. Or do we literally just wait till it's over the water? And that's what we did. At a February 4th Pentagon briefing, an unnamed senior defense official said that Chinese spy balloons had transited the continental United States briefly at least 3 times during the prior administration. The implication appeared to be that those who served Trump had done nothing. It now appears that there was, in fact, no contemporaneous awareness and that the flights, if they happened at all, were discovered only in retrospect. So what this is a, hey, look at what Trump may or may not have done. Look at Orange Man Bad. What was he doing? Takes the attention away from what's going on here, which is that we just had a balloon flying over the U.S. really slowly, and we didn't do much about it. And at the last minute, we, shot it down, and now we're still picking up the pieces and trying to figure out what's going on, right? It's some wild stuff. I would like to know the ins and outs of it, but we'll never know. We detected it. We tracked it, Kirby said. That's the White House spokesperson. Kirby's remarks came a few hours after Pompeo spoke with The Hill, but the former Secretary of State, who holds a dim view of a Washington media that he believes skews liberal, is rankled by reporting on the topic. You're bringing it up too, and this is exactly what the Biden administration wants you talking about. Look over here. See this shiny object. Trump, 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 right? This wasn't remotely the same thing. As best I can tell, no one was aware, and this is fundamentally different from what has transpired over the past 2 weeks, he said. To me, Fooey on space aliens. Really? Okay. You don't think they're real? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Big respect for any for saying it. I admire people who can say it. We just don't know, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff, space aliens, I definitely believe are out there. Some form of life is out there for sure. It's not what's been represented in Hollywood, but there's something. There's no way you've got as many planets out there as you do without forms of life being there. And who knows? I mean, they could have been heavily involved with our civilizations. We just don't know, right? I mean, the amount of information that we really do about our planet is kind of staggeringly lacking. Yeah, not really sure on that. Don't really have this, we've not figured out the oceans and all this other stuff. We want to say that we've got everything covered. We don't have a balloon covered flying over our own airspace. Why the government suddenly started detecting mysterious aerial objects. Doesn't that kind of make you wonder? Do you remember a couple of years ago, Joe Rogan had on the Air Force pilot, and they were talking about the tic-tac UFOs because it looked like a little tic-tac on the radar, and the things would just shoot off the radar and come back on, and they were flying how many thousands of miles an hour, or, we have no idea how they're able to do what they're doing. We started to see some of that stuff released, and we've been seeing more and more of this kind of video footage and footage from other planes in the both in the Navy and in the Air Force. You've seen a bunch of footage and everybody's like, well, they're out there. We don't really know what they are. They're not ours. Can't really track them. They fly too fast. So what's the deal? And everybody's kind of like, well, they're out there. They're happening. Here's the footage. Is that made up footage? I don't think so. If it is, all right. Yeah. But there's enough people talking about that. And I know there's been, you got the people, the tinfoil people with the hats on their heads that are believing that they're, connecting with aliens somewhere. You got a lot of real nonsense out there. I mean, the vast majority of stuff. You ever watch Ancient Aliens? I've watched a lot of that. Very small percentage of that to me seems viable. Like it doesn't pass the reasonable test. And that's why I say I would like to believe in aliens or, outside life, outside of the earth, but I don't have any real proof. And so until I see that, I'm going to say, well, I haven't seen it. I haven't experienced it. So no go so far, but not to say that somewhere out there, it's not happening. I think you're pretty limited if you believe that there's nobody else but us, humans in this enormous space that we don't even know, how many exoplanets are there? Well, based on this estimate, we think there's this. So why the government suddenly started detecting mysterious aerial objects? Because it kind of feels like this goes in waves, right? All of a sudden we got a whole bunch of stuff. And, the term flying saucer came from an airplane pilot that was flying from down around Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, and he was tracking what they call a flying saucer now. And this was in 1940s, 1950s. And he was able to triangulate the speed at which he thought this object was going. And he thought it was going about 1,800 miles an hour, but he notched that back down to 1,100 miles an hour because he thought there's no way anybody's going to believe him. And he was basically using St. Helens, Rainier, and Mount Hood, which are all very close. They're in the they're Cascade volcanoes. And so he was able to kind of figure that out. And that's where we get the word flying saucers from, is just southern Washington. And you've got so many stories like that. But then you've got so many stories where you're like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. It's kind of like the whole crop circle thing. It's like, what is going on there? I don't know. No idea. Apparently, the lesson that the military is learning is that if you look for unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs, you will find them floating in U.S. skies. This is what CNN is reporting. In the days after the furor over the Chinese balloons led officials to adjust how they monitor U.S. airspace, fighter jets have intercepted and shot down objects over the sky, Alaska, Canada, Lake Huron. that term objects, a deliberately vague with regard to the 3 objects down since Friday. Nobody currently knows what these things are or who they belong to. How is that possible? How is that possible with all the technology that we have and we just don't know? They said the White House was willing to rule that the objects are from out, was willing to rule out that the objects were from out of this world. But we just read that one of the military guys said, oh, it could be UFOs. All right. They're not alien. They're not threatening. This is what I kind of envision happening if an alien invasion did ever happen. If it did ever happen, it would be deny, 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 deny until the last minute. And then it's like, all right, well, the cat's out of the bag. They're here now. So, yeah, guess we're just going to have to deal with it. All that, denying that we're being invaded. That's not true. We are. Here it is. Deal with it, guys. I think that's kind of how that would go. Or there would just be dead radio silence, right? Because you'd be being invaded. I've watched far too many, sci-fi movies and whatnot. I don't think the American people need to worry about aliens with respect to these craft, period. There's nothing more to be said on that, said John Kirby, National Security Council coordinator for the Strategic Communications at a White House briefing yesterday. All right, we don't know what they are, but not aliens. No, we know they're not aliens. Okay, I feel better. I feel better since John Kirby, you assured me, and also Karine Jean-Pierre, she assured me that no aliens. It's not happening. He also suggested the downed objects pose no imminent immediate threat. How do we know? How do we know? We blasted them out of the sky. So, they must have been a threat somewhere. Some people want to say that they were a threat to commercial aircraft. All right, really? So you're going to blast them out of the sky because of that? Nah. The objects posed no immediate threat. They were not sending communication signals. They showed no signs of maneuvering or had any propulsion capabilities and were not manned. It kind of makes you wonder, how did they get there then? How did they get there? And we go back to, well, we've since tweaked, something that you can see with your naked eye. We have since tweaked our radar technology to get there. And you're kind of left with, okay, all right. So many questions, so few answers. Under scrutiny for President Joe Biden's lack of public comment. That's another thing. What has our fearless leader told us about this? Nothing. Crickets. He sent everybody else to the microphone, right? Hey, just go say something. Just go say something to these people because they're not believing us. We just blasted 3 things out of the sky and they're not believing us. Just get out there and tell them it's not aliens. Can't you imagine that conversation happening? Are they aliens? Do we know? Just get out there and tell them something. You got to say something though, because the natives are getting restless. So Joe Biden's lack of public comment. The government is now working to appear engaged. They're doing something. They got something going on. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is set to lead a new interagency team to assess the UAPs. So we've got more, reimagining, rethinking. We're going to discuss a game plan moving forward. We're going to adjust our radar technology, but not aliens. What we know about the latest 3 objects. CNN's Natasha Bertrand broke down the descriptions of these latest objects. Those intercepted over Alaska and northern Canada, she said, had balloon-like features with small cylindrical metal objects attached, and they were flying at around 40,000 feet. All right. The object down over Lake Huron on Sunday, first detected over Montana the prior day, was different. An octagonal shape with strings hanging off of it and traveling at 20,000 feet over Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The military decided to down the objects because at those altitudes, they could pose a threat to civilian aircraft. Haven't they closed down the civilian aircraft areas, flight zones where this would be taking place? I think so. Can they not route people around said balloon? I mean, airspace is pretty big, right? Especially over Montana, Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Are these heavily populated areas? It didn't seem like that to me. Yeah, so those are just thoughts that come to my mind. Is like, okay, you're telling me one thing, but this doesn't make a lot of sense. And here we go into the filtering thing. The U.S. changed its filtering and started seeing objects. All right. Okay. So this doesn't make sense to me. But we've already talked about that. Let's just skip past that and let's get to the hundreds of reports of UAPs since 2021. This is a lot of what I have seen, and I follow these stories and I follow these reports all the time because at some point in time, I do believe the government's going to go, oh, that stuff that happened back there, yeah, that one true, that one not so much, that one true, yeah, not sure there. I think we will have some kind of, information will come out. And so much of this, people will be like, all right, yeah, well, I believe that one. I didn't believe that one. Hundreds of reports of UAPs since 2021. The most informative interview I saw Monday was the one CNN's John King conducted with former Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Beth Sanner, who is now a senior fellow at Harvard's University's, okay, whatever. She noted the Director of National Intelligence just last month reported to Congress on 247 new documented reports of UAPs since March 2021. We're getting information like this fairly often. It used to be deny, 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 deny. Oh yeah, no, we've got footage of this happening is kind of what's coming through the information pike now, right? About half of the total are characterized as balloon or balloon-like entities. Others act more like drones. And a few appear to be nothing more than airborne debris like plastic bags. Okay, you know how we're always told, though, that it's weather balloons? It's always weather balloons. And you're kind of like, okay, that doesn't make a ton of sense. But over the years, everything has been explained by the government as a weather balloon. And you're kind of like, okay, no, I can't believe you entirely on that because what people on the ground saw and what you told us it was two wildly different things. But, you got to be reasonable until you have one of these things in hand, until you have an alien on the podcast. We don't know. You can't for sure say that it's a deal, right? It's important for these reports to be taken seriously. There was a lot of discussion when we first started looking at this in 2021. These are all these UFOs out there, that those were aliens. And I think that since then, people have kind of pulled back and said, most of those things probably can be explained. But to me, these stories really come together, right? Because the things that pilots have been seeing and many times were discouraged from talking about, there was a stigma that they could very well be spy. There are other kinds of threats. So it's important to get those things out there. So I would totally believe that a lot of this is spy technology. This could be U.S. technology. You know what I mean? You got the whole Area 51. Who knows what we're doing in there, right? There's just so many wonky stories of stuff coming out of there that you're like, all right, yeah, there's something that's happening. Do you guys remember when there was going to be a rush on Area 51 and somebody had started a campaign where they can't arrest us all? And so they're going to take, a few thousand people and just run onto Area 51 and just, see what happens when you violate heavily restricted military land space. I'm sure that's a good idea, right? I kind of wanted to go down there. That was like, is that 2018, 2019, somewhere in there? I think it was before the pandemic for sure. But, I'd like to see what happens then. All right, 5,000 people, bum rush, Area 51. How's that going to go? Because there's something going on there. I don't know what it is, again. And we have no way of confirming a lot of this stuff. We have ignored these kinds of slow-moving threats if that's what they are. So we're kind of approaching this from, it might be a threat, might not be a threat, don't really know. President Biden, go out and say something. Oh, no, I can't get in the middle of that. So China has, I'm going to ignore that section there because that's kind of boring. You know what? This, we've pretty much gone through what we need to here. Let's see what you guys are saying here. See if there's any good comments here. You guys are talking about places you've been and, U.S. military lying for years. Read a book where military dropped over 1,000 nuclear bombs on America. I kind of believe that you know, it doesn't matter, Sean. Who cares if there are space aliens? As a species, we must solve our problems with personal responsibility. Yeah, I mean, that is to be considered, but I don't know. The going from, hey, we got to focus on our own problems. Yes, but if we become, you know, somebody else's subspecies, then our problems aren't really going to matter. And that's kind of where I approach this from, is if there's stuff out there, I'd like to know. I think I have a right to know. As a member of this planet, I think, you know, if we have knowledge that there's, you know, other races out there, I would at least like to know. I don't want to be kept in the dark. I can handle it. I'll take it. All right. You got 45,000 different races of aliens. And how about the story about, you know, the alien standing on the crater overlooking the moon? You get stories like that, just some wild stuff. I don't believe most of it, but it's stories out there, and they're certainly entertaining, if nothing best. A lot of people I hear moving to Tennessee and Kentucky. Yeah, that's no aliens. Okay. A lot of you guys are no aliens. Well, I guess if it's UFOs, it would make sense why now before humans blow up the planet. That's kind of one of those things I think about too is, all right, we're heading towards all this craziness. And William, like you said, you know, you've got to figure out our own problems. What if we introduce the whole alien thing along with all these other problems just kind of coming to a head? That seems like the perfect time to do it, because you've got this, hey, look up there, you got this going on. And then we don't focus on our own problems. A lot of stuff out there to consider, right? Aliens, lack of U.S. info on shoot downs breeds wild ideas. I think a lot of people are going to go crazy with this. And not necessarily based on any reality, but just because they want to. They just want to think, okay, yep, there's stuff out there. It's happening. All right, it's go time. This is in a conclusion that this is what's happening. And in fact, we've just got a bunch of denial from the United States government. But getting back to the United States government not giving us the truth, yeah. With few confirmed details from President Joe Biden's White House, the downing of 3 unknown aerial objects in as many days by U.S. fighter pilots has prompted wild speculation about what they were and where they came from. It even fell to his press secretary on Monday to announce earnestly no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity. Well, but then what are they? Well, we don't know. All right. You see the kind of circular argument you got going on there? But we're gonna exclude aliens or extraterrestrial activity. We're gonna exclude ET. ET is not on the ballot. The president had no public events Monday and has offered little reassurance or explanation of what to make of it all, because he doesn't want to make a mistake, right? He doesn't want to say something and then just have it come screaming back at him as misinformation because he made a statement on something he didn't know about, or they haven't figured out yet, or they don't really know what it is, or they got to figure out an angle to cover it up. Something along those lines is going on, right? This is following the discovery of the Chinese spy balloon crossing the country and the unprecedented peacetime shoot-downs that have followed. U.S. officials said that they still know little about the 3 objects down Friday off the coast of Alaska, but those shoot-downs have just been part of a more assertive response to aerial phenomenon following the balloon episode blamed on an ongoing Beijing espionage program. So when's the last time we blew something out of the sky like this? I mean, when is the last time we had 3 blown out of the sky over our skies? Have we? I mean, and it's been such front and center news, right? Have we had 3 objects like this? Has this ever happened? I don't know. I mean, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre did have at least one definitive statement to try and tamp down unrestrained theories. I know there's been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity. Well, coming from her, that is a real assurance, because, 90% of Peter Doocy's questions to her get responded with, I'm going to have to refer you to the White House, attorneys, lead counsel. I'm going to have to refer you to somebody other than me because they're working more closely on this, and I don't really have a clue. And Peter Doocy comes at it from every other angle. basically gets the same answer because she is not capable of answering anything. But definitively, she's come right out and said, yep, no aliens, no aliens. All right. U.S. government insists the three objects did not pose a threat to American security. Well, how do we know if we don't really know what they were and we don't know who they're from? You know, maybe they did pose a security threat, but we don't know. But we're just going to tell the American public, all right, no threat, not aliens. Let's go with that. Let's run with that. Hot off the presses. And even the massive spy balloon provided limited additive capabilities. We don't know. I mean, we haven't had a chance to really, look at the wreckage from that and see what we picked up, right? We just don't know. So Biden's unparalleled decision to shoot down 4 objects over North America in 8 days, when combined with U.S. officials' efforts to publicly downplay the foreign threat, has furthered the dissonant messages being sent about sensitive efforts to protect the homeland. U.S. officials, speaking on the condition of being anonymous to discuss internal deliberations, acknowledged the confusion, saying the administration wants to keep the American public from becoming unnecessarily worried, while also trying to maintain a tough posture towards China. Now, what about those other 3 objects, though? Where were they from? Not really sure. So this whole thing, to me, where we sit right now is kind of like, it's a whole lot of nothing. It's a whole lot of nothing to me. That first one, they're picking up the bits and pieces of that now, and they'll analyze that, and they'll give us some story about what that was. But, weather balloon, really? I mean, that's China's story. Weather balloon got blown off course. Here's another story. White House says leading theory is objects shot down were benign balloons as it tries to tamp down on conspiracies. This is a lot of the stories. This is what's going on, is there's so many people talking about what this could have been, what this might be. It's this, it's this, it's this. And in reality, it's like, okay, you're going to have to take a chill pill and wait for a while for whatever information they deem to give us. And whatever they give us, you're going to have to take it with a grain of salt. Because do you believe everything that's told to you from CNN? I certainly don't. But this is the information that is consistently being, provided to us. Let's be reasonable. Most of this stuff doesn't make sense. But I think a lot of people are like, just a weather balloon, just a weather balloon. I heard monkeys flew out of what? Good Lord. Maybe they did. How about Madonna? How about Madonna at the Emmys? She does not look good. What happened to her? Drone crash or still going? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you guys are talking about, right? Ripley's Believe It or Not, Japanese floated germ warfare balloons hoping to start fires in our forests. Alien virus turns us to crabs? We don't know, right? I mean, anything could happen. I say have an open mind, but be reasonable. Because stuff that we do know, we talk about that on here all the time. The craziness that's going on right now with sweeping out homeless encampments, that's stuff that's pretty definitive. We can work. We know that. We know that a lot of that, all that's based on drugs. And, we're going down these roads and other things happening. Interest rates going up. Consumer price index came out yesterday. Inflation 6.4%, maybe. And we got a lot of stuff that we can kind of wrap our head around. Some of this stuff. And then the way that the government basically disseminates information back to us, that's what I find really interesting. It's like, okay, what do we believe? Top U.S. general not ruling out aliens after military shoots down 3 UFOs. So we got some guy here, and let's read this. This is the New York Post. I love the New York Post. It just kind of gets right to the heart of the matter. U.S. Air Force general overseeing North American airspace said Sunday he was not ruling out aliens after a string of shoot-downs of unidentified objects. Asked whether he had ruled out an extraterrestrial origin for 3 floating objects, General Glenn Van Herk said, I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything, added Van Herk. That's where I think the position should be right now is, hey, we don't know. And until we do know, anything could be out there. And how many of you guys have told me, it's not aliens. There's no aliens. Not happening. All right. Well, the whole thing is until you know, don't count it out, because it might happen. And then you'll be like, yeah, well, okay. Well, yeah. At this point, we continue to assess every threat or potential threat unknown that approaches North America with an attempt to identify it. Why wasn't that first balloon addressed earlier? That's what I was kind of thinking when we were watching it. I'm like, all right, this isn't a United States weather balloon. This isn't our balloon. It's somebody else's balloon. And we're just letting it kind of march across. That was where I was like, all right, this is not good. What's going on here? Van Herd's comments came during a Pentagon briefing after an F-18 or F-16 fighter shot down an octagonal-shaped object. Had a bunch of news conferences when that happened, right? It's like, what's going on? What can you tell us about this? Well, definitely not aliens. The mystery object that had strings hanging off of it, but carried no perceptible payload. It was shot out of the sky with an AIM-9X missile about 20,000 feet over Lake Huron. The military is planning to retrieve it from the water to learn about its origin. The incidents over the past 3 days involving airborne objects of unknown origin follow the February 4th downing. Another U.S. defense official, speaking on condition of being anonymous, said the military had seen no evidence suggesting any of the objects in question were of extraterrestrial origin. But then they also don't know where they're from, and they're not willing to identify yet. So, are they basically looking at it going, well, that's man-made for sure, but we don't know? Again, yeah, we're just not there yet, right? Van Herk said the military was unable to immediately determine the means by which any of the 3 latest objects were kept aloft or where they were coming from. They don't know the propulsion system. Okay. Technology that, another foreign country has created that we're not aware of. U.S. technology? It doesn't look that way, right? It doesn't look that way. Because then we just claim, that's ours. We need to take it down. But don't know the propulsion. That's interesting. I find that to be kind of like, all right, where's that leave us? We're calling them objects, not balloons, for a reason, Van Herk said. The shoot down over Lake Huron followed the U.S. takedowns of 2 other identified objects over Alaska and Canada. Van Herk said that the 3 most recent objects were very, very small and moved at slow speeds. The incidents come as the Pentagon has undertaken a new push in recent years to investigate military sightings of UFOs, rebranded in official government parlance as unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. Yeah, where does that leave us? That leaves us with a whole lot of, not really sure. Yeah, so they had to use a missile to take down a balloon. That is one thing to me. It's like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right. It's a slow moving balloon. We talked earlier about, if coming in with an airplane, an F-16 or F-22, whatever they were, and you're shooting with guns, you've got you're coming pretty close to do that. And you strafe the balloon, and then you could have fragments of the balloon come off and, hit the plane. So that was why they were talking about using the Sidewinder missiles, I think it was. But yeah, missiles to shoot down balloons. That is something. Invest in protecting our land borders. That is a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. How about just our borders in general? Doesn't it feel like anybody who wants to come to us can? It's crazy. It's crazy. So they should hook a smaller balloon and pop the big one for a controlled landing for the balloon ones. All right. You guys have lots of ideas on, the CCP has paid off a lot of people. Okay. All right. You guys are going on this. You guys are talking about all kinds of stuff. We got some creationism in there. If you removed mockery and deception from Genesis, there is no Bible. Okay. You guys are going hard. A lot of stuff. Let's look at this last one. This last one is U.S. recovers electronic sensors in search of debris from downed Chinese balloon. And then Japan enters the fray today. It's kind of the new development. Japan saying it's assessed that Chinese surveillance balloons had entered its airspace on at least 3 occasions in recent years. But apparently they kept that kind of on the down low. Down low. Yeah, let's just not make that public. Let's just not go down that road. Biden's been poking the bear in the eye with sticks. What does he expect? No response from Nordstrom. Yeah, what happened there? Nord Stream pipeline. What happened there? Did we blow that bad boy up? Yeah, it's another one of these things that you don't know. Will we ever know? You just got to kind of go with what your opinion and what makes sense, and everything else in between, you just got to say, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That is not reasonable. It's kind of why I started doing this, because there's a lot of stuff out there that I think people glom onto. This is how it is. I'm like, really? Really? I know that sounds like it should happen. That sounds like that should be the way it is. And maybe it is. But until you can prove it to me, I'm going to call BS on a lot of this stuff. I'm not going to read a ton from this one, but this is basically, United States says it's now retrieved key electronics, including sensors, from the suspected Chinese spy balloon it shot down earlier this month, a development that comes as new evidence emerged of past balloon sightings over other countries. So other countries are coming out, Japan specifically, and stating that, hey, we had that too. So, these weather balloons, we keep referring to them as weather balloons. These are not weather balloons. These are not weather balloons. Do weather balloons have a payload of like 3 big cars? No, I don't think so. They've got technology. This isn't weather balloon technology. This is technology using to look at us. And apparently, we got the northern border pretty wide open. Southern border, we know, is you can walk right in, literally. Our East Coast and West Coast had so many invasions that nobody wants to talk about here on the West Coast. We've had subs of all, submarines just kind of poking around. And there's always a story out of like World War II where a Japanese sub got all the way over to this area of Pacific Northwest. There's always stuff going on, right? Because there's always just stuff going on. And what we believe, you believe what you believe. And until I can prove it, until I have somebody tell me, until I have somebody standing next to this balloon saying, hey, this is what it is, I'm hesitant to say what it is. But what I think is, the first one was Chinese spy balloon, and the other 3, we flat don't know. Could they be UFOs? Probably not. But then again, we don't know. We've got all these other news stories coming out that the military is sharing with us. It kind of just makes me think, maybe, probably not, but maybe. Have we shot one down before? Probably. Can we prove it? I can't prove it. I don't have any definitive proof. And when people go down so many of these roads, you can prove it with this one. What was it? Jack and the Hill couple that claimed that they were abducted into a spaceship and had, a bunch of stuff happen to them. They were the first abduction couple. And, there's a lot of people who say, that happened. And I'm kind of like, there's some holes in that story as well. So till you can prove it, I don't fall for it. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's probably out there. But, and I will continue to watch Ancient Aliens because that guy with the hair, that guy with the crazy hair, he is nothing if not entertaining. And I find a lot of this to be just that, entertainment, until I can prove it otherwise. That's the way I approach it. I don't know how you approach it, but you guys approach it with a lot of different angles. And I think everybody's valid. Everybody has an opinion to what they believe. Aliens, no aliens, Chinese technology, they're spying on us. The borders are all open. Here on News for Reasonable People, we believe a lot of stuff that is, kind of goes down the same road. You get into aliens, all bets are off. All bets are off. But what do you want to bet? We find one next couple of years or something along those lines are disclosed to us. Hey, we caught one. Here it is. Yeah, I don't know. All right. I'm going to check in with you guys in the comments, see what you guys are talking about. Barney and Betty Hill. All right. Skytrip, you called it. That is correct. I have followed that news story so many times. And you know what? Drugs are crazy. Drugs are bad. Sunny in Norfolk. They say they have no doubt that truth exists and that human babies in general are born with truth in our hearts. We can leave our burden with him. All right. Mind expanded. Stephen, history is written in stone many, many years ago. Here's another thing. So a lot of my content is being censored here, specifically related to drugs. And you know what the new drug is that we've talked about a lot here? I'm going way off of aliens, but I'll tie it back in. And that's the trank. Steph Curry or Cardi B, as some of the drug dealers initially marketed it as. Trank is going to explode in the media. It's already trending. We've talked about it a lot here because you guys have watched and I've watched so much of the stuff coming out of Philadelphia. But it's really clear that the media is trying to downplay so much of this because this is a real problem that's right in front of us. When you've got another real problem, like you got 3 objects that have been shot down out of the sky that just about everybody knows about, that's another issue too. So how much of this stuff is going to get censored? How much of this is going to get shadow banned? All these different theories. It's so out in the open right now, the whole alien thing, or, the UAPs. That's kind of one thing. But what I'm experiencing is that even if I put a word like drugs in the title or in a thumbnail of a video right now, that video gets flagged. That video gets sent through a review process to see whether it's going to be monetized or, any of these kinds of things. So you've got storylines going on right now. Will this be one of them? I don't know. There's probably going to be certain angles of it that are going to fall within that category. And, the vast majority of the videos that we do here, they're educational. So, but there's so much stuff going on with drugs right now, as far as coming up through the southern border, overdoses are a massive, massive topic, that, the powers that be are trying to control things and keep things a little bit more ratcheted down. And that has become wildly obvious. So if you feel like there's information out there that you're not getting the full scoop on and you keep going to search for it and it's just not quite there, there's a good chance that could happen. So how's that for my conspiracy theory kind of deal? There's stuff going on and it's manipulation of information. And are we having that happen to us right now? There's a high probability that that's going on. There's a good chance of that happening. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'm going to go do some real estate stuff and maybe record a couple more podcasts today. So thank you so much for being with me here. Yeah, that's it. Thanks again. And I will probably be podcasting once or twice a week. More than likely, it's going to come down to once a week because what happens is that you guys don't care about that, but the videos do better that aren't live streams. But we're going to figure out a way to get some more action going as far as interactivity. And for all of you guys that have been here, thanks so much. Happy Valentine's Day. And I will catch up with you on the next live stream, and I'll let you know when that is. You can check me out. I'm at most premieres in the mornings, 9:00 my time, when we release the video of the day. When we release that, I'm there. So if you want to chat with me, you can also check out our Discord channel. That's Reasonable Plus. You can chat with me there as well. I'm on there all the time. I'm leaving stories there. You can check that out. And don't forget reasonabletv.com. That is our subscription service. We're going to be doing some giveaways for that shortly on. So just keep coming back here. Thanks again for being here, and I will see you on the next live stream.